All right, let's get it. Kind of an impromptu live stream here, but I just had to get my thoughts out after what was an embarrassing performance from the Knicks last night against the Pistons. It's now a 1-1 series. The Knicks lost at home, and now, the Pistons have home court advantage in the series. I don't think you could have scripted a worse start to this series. And it took a 21-0 run for this series to be 1-1 instead of 0-2. There are a multitude of things that I'd like to get to. I'm back from Vegas. It was great. Thanks for asking. And I had to watch game 1 on my phone in the stands at WrestleMania. Game 2, I had to watch while making a connection to my second flight. And then on that second flight, I had to watch the ending of the game 5 minutes behind on my screen. It was terrible. Couldn't look at my phone. But I didn't miss much because the Knicks, at the end of the game, allowed Dennis Schroeder to hit the game or the go-ahead three-pointer, and they lose by 6 in a completely winnable game. And everything that I discussed in my preview has happened in this series. In game 1, I pleaded with the Knicks, let everyone else besides Cade Cunningham beat you. And what did they do? They let everyone else besides Cade Cunningham beat them. Tobias Harris put up the best first half performance maybe in his career. And guess what happened in the second half? The rest of the team regressed to the mean. Cade Cunningham had a brutal game. And what happened in game 2? Cade Cunningham got every single thing that he wanted. 33, 12, and 3, over 50% shooting from the floor. OG Anunoby did a really solid job on him. But what did the Pistons do? Every offensive possession, set screens and get Cade Cunningham on a terrible defender. Whether it be Mikal Bridges, who did an awful job defending Cade Cunningham, whether it be Jalen Brunson, who obviously didn't stand a chance against Cade Cunningham, or whether it was Josh Hart as well. There's only one good matchup on the floor for the Knicks when it comes to defending Cade Cunningham. And that's with OG Anunoby guarding him. That's it. Cade Cunningham is that much of a nightmare to defend. And most teams don't even have someone to defend him. 6'6" point guard plays like he's 6'8", extremely strong in the paint and in the post. He is able to get whatever he wants with these ISOs, where he just backs the guy down, gets into the paint, and scores at ease. It's exactly what I used to do with Magic Johnson as my point guard at NBA 2K. He's so big. He's so strong. It's so easy to get into the paint against smaller defenders. And it sucks having to put OG Anunoby on him. But you got to do what you got to do. So Cade Cunningham gets whatever he wants in game 2. And the Pistons go into Madison Square Garden and steal a win and now have home court advantage for the rest of the series. Am I worried about the Knicks losing this series? I am not. Am I worried that this series could go 6 or 7 games and could be even more physical and even more draining and make it even that much more hard for the Knicks to put up a fight against the Celtics in a potential second-round series? Absolutely. And what we have seen from this Knicks team, like we have seen all year long, is a lack of identity. Besides giving Jalen Brunson the ball and allowing him to be clutch and allowing him to ISO ball for half of the game. And what the hell is Tom Thibodeau doing in his game plan? In his, I don't even want to call it an offensive scheme, the lack of offensive scheme, to where Karl Anthony Towns is doing nothing in the second half. Nothing. You have 2 All-NBA players, 2 top 10 offensive players in the NBA, in Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. Where the hell is their 2-man game? It's non-existent. And I saw this stat earlier from Tommy Beer, and credit to him for digging this up. Jalen Brunson passed the ball 12 total times. I don't know if this is in the second half or the full game. I really hope it wasn't the second half or wasn't the full game. 12 total times. 12 times to Karl Anthony Towns. He passed the ball 30 times to Josh Hart, 32 times. It was a lot more. He was passing the ball to Josh Hart and OG Anunoby or Mikal Bridges. Josh Hart is inept offensively. Playing him 40 minutes in a game like that simply makes no sense. It does not allow the Knicks to do what they do best and to do what the majority of the teams do best in the NBA. That's a 5-out offense with as much spacing as humanly possible. The Knicks have zero spacing with Josh Hart in the game because he can't knock down a three to save his life. Seriously, that's not hyperbole. He sucks from three. Every once in a while it will go in, but nothing like we saw last year against the 76ers in that playoff series. I cannot for the life of me understand why you play a player in Josh Hart who provides you so little on the offensive end. And it's not like he's been able to get what he wants in transition. The Pistons have done a great job at getting back on defense. Josh Hart has not been able to do, what he does best and what he does better than the majority of the NBA. And that's get out in transition, push the pace, and finish in contact. He hasn't been able to do that, and credit to the Pistons for stopping that. They identified a place in where the Knicks thrive, and they have shut it off almost completely. The Knicks have not been moving the ball at all. Again, it brings me back to one of my first points, and that's this Jalen Brunson iso ball. Yeah, it could work out in close game situations. We've seen the last 3 years Jalen Brunson thrive in clutch situations. That's why he will be the clutch player of the year this year. It is completely unsustainable over a long period of time. Completely. And Karl-Anthony Towns doing absolutely nothing in the second half is just mind-blowing. It is unbelievably frustrating. The Knicks went out. They traded Julius Randle, who a lot of people, of course, for a multitude of reasons, didn't like as a Knick. And they traded Donte DiVincenzo, one of the most beloved Knicks in recent memory. He hit the biggest shot in Knicks history of the last 15 years. And they trade him away. They trade their one-volume three-point shooter. Vibes aside, Villanova guys, the four of them finally reunited aside, Donte DiVincenzo brought an identity to this Knicks team, a tough, hard-nosed identity that we, of course, have not seen throughout this entire season. You lost a lot in trading him away. And, of course, a lot of people looked at it as a positive because of Julius Randle finally being dealt. He didn't perform well when it mattered the most in the playoffs. We were robbed of seeing what he was able to potentially do in last year's playoffs when he got hurt January 27th against the Heat with his shoulder. So we were robbed of that. Hartenstein leaving changed the trajectory of this team. The second that he left, with Mitchell Robinson's injury, the Knicks didn't have a center. The Knicks did not have a center on the roster. Precious Achiuwa is not a center. Julius Randle, not a center. You think the Knicks were really comfortable playing Ariel Hukporti big minutes as a center, as a rookie? No. So whatever it was, whether it was James Dolan coming in the last second saying, hey, we need a center, whether it was Leon Rose in Worldwide West, surmising that this Knicks team on its own before that trade would not be good enough. But they go out and trade for a guy in Karl-Anthony Towns who the Timberwolves did not think was good enough on his own defensively to play the center. They had to go out and trade, more than half of the picks they had for Rudy Gobert because they did not trust Karl-Anthony Towns at the 5. So it wasn't like the Knicks used their assets to trade for Steven Adams or Ivica Zubac. I definitely botched that name. I see it, I read it all the time, but I still have no idea how to pronounce it. It's not like the Knicks went out and traded for Jonas Valanciunas. They traded for Karl-Anthony Towns. And in doing so, they had to give up Donte DiVincenzo. And now look where the Knicks are at this point in the season. They gave up all that for a guy who's not involved in the offense. A guy whom has become a complete decoy on the offensive end. He is consensusly a top 2 shooting big man from 3 in NBA history. Yet, and this is something that I've hammered home repeatedly, does not shoot threes. He does not take more than 5 threes a game. It's so unfathomable. It is completely unfathomable. You look at Karl-Anthony Towns. What is he able to provide? Spacing, 3-point shooting, the ability to get to the basket. He had Tobias Harris guarding him yesterday. Tobias Harris. And he does nothing in the second half. He does not get the ball. Where is the pick and pop game between him and Jalen Brunson? Before Julius Randle went down with his injury. As I said, January 27th, 2024. What happened? The Knicks were developing that rapport between Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. Their pick and roll game had never been better. And it was consistently resulting in 2 or 3 points. Where the hell is the 2-man game between Cat and Jalen Brunson? That's my biggest question. And, we got some people here, Z-So saying Thibs has got to go. I think if this series continues on the same trajectory where there is a complete lack of, offensive changes in terms of the scheme and adjustments mid-game, yeah, he's gone. He's gone. Yeah, Steve Adams, yeah. 2K legend. But listen, I think that if you want to criticize Tom Thibodeau, it's completely warranted. It's completely warranted. The fact that he's not encouraging Karl-Anthony Towns to do more offensively is malpractice. It is coaching malpractice. You can knock Tom Thibodeau for a multitude of things. That's one of them. How about this one? Campaign is the reason why this series isn't 0-2. He plays 4 minutes last night. 4 minutes. Not 5. Not 6. 4 minutes. 4 freaking minutes. And I just, doesn't even get a shot up. Doesn't even get a shot up. After what he did in game 1. Again, the reason why they won that game. 4 measly minutes. Yeah, he had 3 fouls. Who cares? Who cares? So I'm sitting here trying to get to everything. All the takeaways that I've had. Watching both games on my phone in weird places, but I was locked in. This is what matters to me. If the Knicks won a championship, I think it would be the best thing to ever happen to me. Straight up. And I think that there are the majority of the Knicks fan base feel the same. We live and die by these Knicks playoff games. You had the Garden rocking last night. You made that comeback. There were a few guys who hit huge shots, but when it mattered the most, Mikal Bridges did not show up. 5 first-round picks. Let me remind you guys, if you forgot. 5 first-round picks. For a guy that many people thought was going to be the Swiss Army knife, the X factor, the difference maker for this Knicks team. We have not seen that. In big moments, he does not come up. He does not come up big. The one shot I could think of this entire season offensively, obviously he had that one block against, Vucevic against the Bulls. That was huge. They won that game. Is the Trailblazers game winner from 3 in Portland. Can you guys think of any other big moments, clutch moments from Mikal Bridges throughout the season? Because I can't. That's the guy that the Knicks mortgaged their future for. And they didn't give up any picks, any important picks in the Cat trade. They gave up an important player in Dante DiVincenzo, who brought a lot of success for the Knicks last year, stepped up in a major way after Julius Randle's injury, and became the volume scorer the Knicks so desperately needed once Julius Randle went down. And they traded that guy for someone they don't utilize game in and game out offensively. Karl-Anthony Towns on his own has the ability to take over a game, any game that he's in. I don't know if you remember that Heat game about a month and a half ago, or about a month ago, where the Knicks were getting blown out to start the game against a Heat team which had lost 5 or 6 games in a row. Karl-Anthony Towns goes on a 14 or whatever, 13-0 run on his own. He has that offensive ability. So it is malpractice to not get him the ball and let him work against a guy in Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris, who's guarding him. It makes zero sense. And the other thing about the lack of spacing and not getting Karl-Anthony Towns the ball is, and this is as frustrating as anything else, is Josh Hart playing 40 minutes a game. I mentioned this before. He's offensively inept. You have zero spacing. You've got Jalen Duren guarding. And you know what happens when Jalen Duren is able to hedge off of Josh Hart and give him all the space in the world to knock down these threes, which he doesn't? Guess where Jalen Duren is defensively? He's roaming and he's in the paint. He's one of the best paint protectors in the NBA. He's a raw athletic freak. And by playing Josh Hart 40 minutes a game, Jalen Duren is allowed to be the paint stopper that he has been throughout his entire career. So not only are you getting zero out of Josh Hart himself offensively, but you're limiting what OG Anunoby is going to be able to get at the basket. You're limiting what Jalen Brunson is going to be able to get at the basket. You're limiting what Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be able to get at the basket. Just because you feel the need to play Josh Hart 40 minutes a game. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. I know there are a lot of people out there who aren't as up in arms and as upset as I am with Josh Hart's big minutes. And to those people, I say, get real. Come back down to earth. Understand the limitations that playing Josh Hart brings you offensively. Because there's a bunch of them. And they're not going away unless Tom Thibodeau comes to his senses and stops playing Josh Hart so much. You can't do it. You can't do it. And by playing him less, I understand he's built to play a lot of minutes. You know, one of the top 3-4 guys in minutes played this season. But you're telling me that playing Josh Hart 5 to 10 minutes less is not going to give him, a boost energy-wise when he comes into the game? You're telling me that he's not going to have an extra step playing a little bit less? You say that that's not the case, you're lying to yourself. I think anyone who's ever played a sport understands with more rest comes more energy when you come in. Look at hockey players. They're constantly switching lines. You can't play the entire game because they lose a step when they play so much. I understand that ice skating, physicality in hockey is completely different than basketball. I don't see why the physicality is actually much different in playoff hockey versus playoff basketball. With the amount of things that the Knicks and the Pistons are getting away with defensively. And a lot of people are pointing to the free throw disparity and the discrepancy between the two different teams and free throws taken last night. You find a lot of Knicks fans up in arms about that. You find every other NBA fan up in arms about the fact that Jalen Brunson got a few phantom foul calls. I can understand why watching Jalen Brunson is infuriating for fans who aren't Knicks supporters. I completely understand it. But there was a level of physicality allowed for the Pistons that wasn't afforded for the Knicks. And maybe the phantom foul calls on Brunson made up for that. I'm not going to say it was tick for tack, but this Pistons team plays way too physical for the free throw discrepancy to be as large as it was. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you the reason why the Knicks lost last night was because of their lack of free throws. Of course, that would have helped. But again, as I said, Jalen Brunson got a few calls that he shouldn't have gotten. Let's just call a spade a spade. That's the case. Pistons only had 11 assists in the game last night. Knicks had 14. The Knicks, we have seen throughout this year, have been able to move the ball well. Their assist numbers have usually been high. When they move the ball well, don't allow the ball to get stuck, that's when they're at their best. Last night, they played down to what the Pistons wanted them to do. And that's a grueling, slow-paced game in which the Knicks have to rely on Jalen Brunson for the majority of the offensive output. Jalen Brunson scored more than one-third the amount of points that the Knicks scored last night. He did. He went 12 for 27 last night. He unsurprisingly, went 12 for 27 in game one as well. 27 shots. 27 shots. While Karl-Anthony Towns gets under 10 last night. It is just so infuriating. 25 shots from Karl-Anthony Towns in 2 games. That's how much he should be taking a game. He should be launching threes. And not playing as a decoy in the corner. But there's zero spacing with Josh Hart constantly in. Imagine playing a lineup with Josh Hart, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Mitchell Robinson. It makes zero sense. Zero. Get Karl-Anthony Towns involved. Run plays for him. Have another guy set screens with Towns as the ball handler. He's a playmaker. He can pass. He can drive. He can shoot. He does everything offensively. And it's foul practice to have him take 25 shots in the first 2 games. There's nothing that pisses me off more in my current sports fandom. Everything that it encompasses. The Yankees, the Giants, the Knicks. It's Karl-Anthony Towns. What the hell was the point of trading for him? What the hell was the point of that? Giving up Dante DiVincenzo, your one volume 3-point shooter. You gave up your one volume 3-point shooter. And to be fair, Julius Randle was able to get up plenty of shots. He took 1 million step backs per game, but he was actually able to fire 3-pointers. The Knicks ranked 23rd in the NBA in 3-pointers attempted per game. Around 32 threes a game. They rank 7th in 3-point shooting percentage. Their best 3-point shooter, percentage-wise, is a 7-foot freak of nature offensively, who shoots 42% from 3. Yet he's only contributing 5 3-pointers attempted to the 32 the Knicks already have, which is not a lot. So I just don't think the Knicks are playing into their strengths enough in this series. They're playing exactly how the Pistons want them to play. That's not the Knicks' identity. Last year's team would have fared a lot better against this Pistons team. There's no doubt in my mind. But the Knicks cannot win a series largely relying on Jalen Brunson to go iso ball. Again, it's unsustainable. It's also unsustainable with Josh Hart playing this poorly on the offensive end to play him 40 minutes a game. And to play him in the same lineup as Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns at the same time. That is, for this Knicks team, one of the worst possible lineups you could ever roll out. 0 space. 0. Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns playing together, I love it. I love it. The Knicks got out-rebounded last night. They lost a lot of 50-50 balls. Karl-Anthony Towns, not a great rebounder. You look at his rebounding stats throughout the course of this year, it's because, again, he was by far the tallest guy on the team in those lineups, and also just a lot of rebounds fell to him. In terms of offensive boards, loose balls, 50-50 rebounds, Mitchell Robinson is that guy. And we know this. Ziso says, this is actually pretty funny. What happens first? Mikal Bridges makes an important shot or trying to tariff deal gets made. I actually think Mikal hitting the shot, and this is not a political thing, but it's not going to happen. But no, it's just like, yeah, Mikal had his shot last night. He had his chance, and he did not come through at the exact same spot in a very similar situation as Dante DiVincenzo's 3 last year. So now the Knicks are down. Now the Knicks are tied 1-1, which feels like it's a lot worse than it actually is. Because you're playing a Pistons team that won, 14 games last year? They tripled their win total. They have one 3-level scorer. They've one star-level playmaker and scorer. That's it. That's it. But they're constantly hunting the mismatches, and they get them almost every possession. Jalen Duren is a very tough guy. He's a brick wall. And his screens are able to prevent OG Anunoby from getting over those screens, to getting through them. So then inevitably, he's going to be switched. Mikal Bridges is going to be switched onto him. Whoever, Jalen Brunson is going to be switched onto him. And Mikal Bridges, as I mentioned before, has not done a good enough job stopping. He's not strong enough. Yeah, sure, Mikal Bridges is able to play the pass games really well because of his length. And he's got quick hands, quick reaction time. He's not strong enough. He's not. And his length is not enough to defend against these bigger offensive guys. So you're at a significant disadvantage on the offensive end. That's why I'm saying let other guys beat you. Pistons have shooters. They have Tim Hardaway Jr. They have Malik Beasley, who off the bench, he played 82 games, I think, maybe 80, but he started 18 games. Guy who largely came off the bench, shot and hit over 300 threes this year. They have shooters. Tobias Harris feels like he's hitting every 3 that he's taken. So it's hard to just like easily say that it would be a task that could be accomplished by anyone. I mean, it's a tall task for any team, no matter how good of defenders you have. But you got to blitz Cade Cunningham and let everyone else beat you. And that's why the Knicks, along with a very lucky, in my opinion, 21-0 run, is the reason why they won Game 1. Otherwise, they'd be down 0-2. You got to make things tough for Cade Cunningham. You got it. And he rose to the occasion last night. And again, as I said earlier, made some of the toughest shots that I've seen anyone hit over OG Anunoby all season long. You got to give credit where credit is due. He showed up. Dennis Schroeder showed up in a huge way. The Knicks just did not do enough last night and allowed the refs no calls to get into their heads. You saw it at halftime. The coming out of halftime interview with Alan Hahn, interviewing Rick Brunson, and that he said the Knicks have to stop complaining. Play your game. Do not allow these, lack of calls and these no calls affect your game. They did. They did. They allowed that to happen. They allowed that to get into their heads. It's one of the reasons why they lost the game. There are a bunch of other reasons. I covered them all here. Karl-Anthony Towns, shoot the fucking ball. I don't really care. I'm gonna curse. I'm just so fed up with not being involved in the offensive scheme. It feels like every other game. He needs to be shooting at least 20 shots in Game 3. If he doesn't, the Knicks are gonna have another tough game, and it's gonna be another like if Cat has a good offensive game and everyone else is a good compliment to him, the Knicks will not have any trouble winning. They won't. They won't. Because they've been playing well enough defensively. It's just offensively, this team looks like a completely different beast. And whether it's playoff physicality being different, the lack of Knicks' identity defensively being exposed, whether it just be, a tough adjustment to a different level and style of basketball. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to sit here and try to explain it. I don't think anyone could right now. Simply put, the Knicks have to play their own game, and they have to stop playing Josh Hart so many minutes, especially when Jalen Duren is in the game. So you're giving the Pistons exactly what they want. And that's a free safety who is, as I mentioned, an athletic beast to roam around the paint and do whatever he wants. That's what Josh Hart gives you offensively when he's not hitting shots. He's just inept. He's inept. It's a very easy guard, especially for a guy like Jalen Duren, because Josh Hart is one of the best scorers in transition and in the paint at the bucket in the NBA. You're not getting whatever you want when Jalen Duren is defending you, essentially in the paint, right outside of the paint. It just makes things so much easier defensively for the Pistons. I think that if you stretch them out, get the spacing you need, you're going to win. You're going to win because offensively, they do not have enough firepower to keep up with you if you have a good offensive game. The Knicks scoring 94 points last night is simply pathetic. And they could look inward, or they could blame the refs, do whatever else they want, and not take responsibility for what happened in that game. And that's Josh Hart played too much. Karl-Anthony Towns was nowhere near as involved in the offense as he should have been. And Jalen Brunson, hero iso ball, a la Carmelo Anthony, as we learned 10 years ago, is not good enough to be successful in big spots like this. And at the end of a game, in the last couple of possessions, fine. He's a guy you can trust. He's a guy you can go to, and he's going to make the big shot. But over the course of an entire game, completely unsustainable, and coaching malpractice to continue to allow it to happen. We've seen it time and time again this season. When the Knicks are playing their worst, either Jalen Brunson's not doing well enough, or he's touching the ball way too much. It's just very difficult when Jalen Brunson's the one 3-point volume scorer on this roster when he shouldn't be. He does his best work inside of the arc, not outside of it. Yes, he's able to hit threes, but he shoots 38% from three. That's league average. Right above league average. 36, 37% from the league. Not good enough. But yet you've got a guy shooting 42% from three who never takes more than 5 threes a game. It's simply, again, unfathomable. And the Knicks are going to have to make some adjustments going into game 3 if they want to win this series handily. Everything I said has come true. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm not telling you, oh, look at me, I got it right. I don't think that's important here. I think what's important is that we all agree that what is happening for this Knicks team and what's happening with them, with their offensive scheme, and how they've been playing defensively, their lack of toughness, their lack of mentality, simply not good enough. It simply is not. All right, that'll do it for today. I got my thoughts out. I said everything I needed to say. Game 3, Thursday night, I'll definitely be getting some content out, whether that be a pregame, postgame, whatever it is. Stay locked onto my Twitter at Bryce Gelman. And I will have whatever it is. Giants draft is this week, so that's going to be a difficult situation for me on Thursday night. Hopefully the Knicks run away with that game so I could focus on the Giants. If they draft Shedeur Sanders and the Knicks lose that game, you will never hear from me again. That's a promise. Count on that. So a very stressful week for me coming up. The fruits of this week could be unbelievable. I don't have much hope for my teams, but I digress. That'll do it for today. And again, stay locked to my Twitter. One Giant Step coming out tonight, tomorrow morning. Sean and I just recorded. So fun times, whatever you want to look at it for the Giants, and Yankees talk coming too. So whatever, that's enough for me today. And stay locked to my Twitter for whatever's coming on later this week. So see you all. Peace.